As we continue to see turbulence in the crypto space, XRP continues to see some volatility. In this video, we're going to jump on down into the price action of XRP, taking a look at what's been going on most recently and what we would expect to happen next. As I get into this video, if you find it useful and informative, smash the like button. I do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all the notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. Now, if you haven't yet joined us in Discord, it is a centralized hub of everything that we do in Cheeky Crypto. We cover a lot more down in a Discord server than we do here on YouTube and on Twitch, etc. So well worth checking it out. It's completely free. Links in the description below. Okay guys, let's make a start. XRP paired up with USDT on the daily chart. Binance is the data source. We're starting here because it helps us understand that we are in this movement to the downside. We can see this on the daily chart here with our trend line. Now, I'm not a huge fan of trend lines because they're subjective to the person who draws them. Sometimes you might want to draw it down here and just ignore wicks, for example. And sometimes you might want to look at it like this and then have to keep adjusting it multiple times over and so forth, right? So it's one of those. However, if we actually throw on the EMAs, we can also see some more confirmations of this. Specifically the 100 and 200 EMA. The white light line, this is basically the 100 EMA, and you can see that we're below there, and you can see that that's an area just here that we've been pulling down from. And the slightly grey line here, the top one, this is essentially the 200 EMA. Now, what this generally tells us is when you're above it, you're in an upward trend, and when you're below it, you're in a downward trend. That's kind of how it's been looked at. Now, obviously, with XRP, it fluctuates around a lot, right? It's above and below this, like these lines all the time, specifically on this daily chart. But when we actually go up into a slightly higher range here, we can see that for the most part, since these low points, we've kind of crossed over it, we're battling, but we never actually were able to stay above these for a period of time. You can see how it became resistance here on the weekly, and we got rejected from it, okay? Now, yes, there's a lot of fundamental things that have been going on in the space that actually are the main culprit for the reason of rejection, but you can see that we were struggling here already way before FTX and all of that stuff kind of came to light. So we want to be very aware that we isn't looking overly positive longer term here for XRP. But that being said, there's a lot of other things fundamentally that could obviously shift and change that could be massive drivers for the price action. But I think that's really a 2023 kind of scenario with the SEC versus Ripple case. I don't think we're going to see any kind of, conclusion on this within the next few days. Okay, but we did a whole video about dates recently. So let's go ahead and start reflecting on what's actually going on here. So from an Elliott wave theory point of view, what do we see from down here in June? Well, like everything else I've been saying, it's a three-wave structure. Now, moving into where we are, we're actually coming down in what might be a 335 corrective structure, also looking to just come down a little bit further. So there's basically three waves in here, and I have to make this a little bit bigger because it's quite a tight squeeze to get it in there, but you can kind of see this. If I come in here, we have this kind of three-wave structure just coming in down here. We then have a little three-wave structure just coming up here, and then we get into this bigger journey down here. Now, I don't like it overly, but it's looking like we might do something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, right? It's a possible scenario. Essentially, it'll still be three waves regardless of how we kind of finish it off, and we either have already completed it or we haven't completed it yet. Okay, these are the things we have to kind of consider here. So we've got a couple of different options, and looking at it, from this kind of standpoint, it looks like a pretty big wave C. Okay, so that's just the daily chart. I'll go ahead and tidy this up a little bit, and then we're going to go down into, let's start actually going down into the 4-hourly chart here. Okay, the 4-hourly chart gives us a bit more kind of granular detail of what is going on here with XRP. You can see that these wicks in the middle here actually do make this pretty much impossible to be a 5-wave drop. So happy to say that this probably is not the case of what is going on here, and we probably are going to be reasonably okay. We haven't got those kind of 5-wave structures, so that's looking okay. So a little bit of kind of misread on those higher time frames, but down here it actually gives us a pretty clear move, specifically with these wicks here. It kind of invalidates the idea that you have these 5-wave structures. So instead, it just looks like 3 coming down and potentially 3 coming back up. So we have to be a little bit cautious, but from Elliott wave theory, would say that we probably have to revisit this area of supply. So if I grab my fibs and I run the fib from the high to the low and transpose that over to this point here, we can look at this maybe coming up towards 45 cents, right? But that's on the idea that we've already finished this pull to the downside. I would look at it like this. It would be basically an A, B, and C kind of structure, okay? But I don't think we're going to push through this area of supply. I think, you know, we look back and we can see this as an area of previous support, okay? And I think we're going to turn this into another area of basically resistance and supply, as I've labeled it here. So essentially, I'm thinking that we're going to come up towards 41 to 43 cent, and we're going to find that as our kind of area for resistance and where we're going to reverse from. Now, as I come down into the hourly, we'll just go into those granular details again. We can see pretty reasonable structures here, a lot of overlap, nothing too much to kind of be too concerned with. It actually looks pretty reasonable to expect that move upwards, but again, be very, very cautious. It can break down just as much as it could break to the upside, so just be really, really cautious with that. Now, I would expect a move to the upside, so let's go ahead and check this momentum indicator here. We are oversold on the 1 hour, the 4 hour, not on the 8 hour though, but we are on the daily. The weekly obviously still needs a correction, and the monthly is still okay. So there's definitely momentum there, but you know, I don't think we're in the right climate for buying. So I would say that, yeah, there's a possibility here that we come up into that range. It makes the most amount of sense, but I would consider it a bit of a fake out. I don't think it would be sustained long term. I think it would be a quick movement to the upside and then a quick crash or continue moving to the downside. I don't think this is a point of reversal. I still expect more downward pressure on price. So I'm not expecting any kind of big movement to the upside. Now, as we kind of look at these kind of positions on these candles, and we're just kind of trying to get an ascertain whether or not there's something more going on here. Doesn't really look like it. Just 1, 2, and 3 up there. That's not a problem. We have a lot of resets in here. This is like a double 3, I think, or a triple 3. Probably a triple 3. It's kind of a bit messy. So when you take a look at it, you kind of have this kind of bigger movement occurring. Then you go into these little micro movements here, kind of corrections. Then we come down, probably, I think we are either, see, this is where it's a little bit unclear. We could still move down a bit more. Could be here, and still coming down a little bit. And then you end up with this kind of 333 kind of structure right in here. So we want to be a little bit cautious. It's very, very difficult to read the market right now. There's a lot of fear. A lot of people are just withdrawing from exchanges. So just going to be a little bit cautious from time to time. This is possibly that we still have a little bit more room to the downside before we can actually talk about that move to the upside. Essentially, I do think there's something in it to the upside, but it is high risk. It's not something that I would personally be looking at trading, but I do think there's a little bit of an opportunity in that for people with higher risk tolerances than I have, for example. But looking at it, you know, for the most part, we've broken down quite nicely here. We can see this one, we moved up, and then we have this big breakdown here. And like I said, because of this wick in the middle here, it basically means that we don't really have that that 5-wave structure potential. Doesn't really give us that kind of clear picture. Instead, it just looks like we're moving down in 3. Now, the biggest concern here would be that we'd have that move to the upside. We come up like so, and actually all of this gets wrapped up inside of the bigger move like this, right? And you start to see how we can really break on down. And all of this, again, could then be tagged inside a bigger move like so, right? So there's a few things across multiple higher time frames that we should be a little bit worried about, a little bit cautious of. But for the most part, I'm still expecting prices to come down lower. I'm still thinking lower than 28 for XRP here, and I think there's going to be some pretty good rates. But really, what's going to be the tell is whether or not we see you know, a calming after this kind of recent fallout of FTX, Alameda Research, and you know, a few dozen other companies that are potentially at risk due to FTX and Alameda Research and all that kind of nonsense that's been going on. So we want to be a little bit cautious. The market and retailer money is not flowing. Wealthy individuals, their money is not flowing at the moment either. So just be cautious. There isn't really a lot of demand in order to bring the prices up. Instead, people are kind of, you know, looking to either safeguard themselves, pulling their crypto off the exchanges, or they are looking to sell. So just be aware that if there is a price movement to the upside, I think it's going to be short-lived at best. But guys, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. And if you have found this video useful and informative, smash the like button. I do appreciate that. Join us down in Discord. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe. Guys, until the next one, have a fantastic day.